I picked up Jamie from the daycare center, signed the release form, which confirmed they had delivered him to me in the same condition they got him, and took him home. I gave him some milk and a cookie and then he went upstairs. About 15 minutes later he was back down with his doll, which he had changed into her party dress, and wanted me to get him dressed the same. Dr. Mitchell had recommended that I not change anything, so I went upstairs and helped him into the dress. I felt somewhat better about doing it with her approval. Then again, Kelly inadvertently revealed that Dr. Mitchell was a transsexual. Could she, I suppose that's how you would refer to one of them, be too permissive, because of her own decision to be a woman? But you liked her, Ginny. She seemed genuinely compassionate. You wouldn't have any misgivings about her advice, if you hadn't discovered her secret. Was it a secret? Kelly had obviously been with her for a long time and she didn't seem particularly concerned about revealing it. I decided to speak with Karen. The rest of the day was difficult, because of my conflicted feelings, which led to me wonder if maybe I was too hasty in getting counseling. Why did I need a psychiatrist to tell me to let nature take its course? I can do nothing without her help. This was getting much too complicated and giving me a headache. I really needed to talk to Karen. I looked at the clock. It wasn't even dinner time yet. I could call her at her office, but probably she was with a patient, then she would get a message to call me and be worried something bad had happened. I didn't want to alarm her. Take it easy, Ginny, I advised myself. Things will work themselves out, if you are patient. Make yourself a cup of tea. In the midst of chaos, tea is comforting. I managed to get through the rest of the day. Preparing dinner was a helpful distraction. I decided to put a lot of energy into it by making one of Jamie's favorite meals, spaghetti and meatballs. I put the hamburger in a plastic bag and soaked it in hot water to thaw it out, then mixed it with seasoning and formed it into meatballs, which I roasted in the oven until they were nice and brown on the outside and juicy on the inside. I went through the rest of the routine with the pasta and sauce. It took almost 2 hours to get it done, together with a salad and white toast, since I didn't have any Italian bread handy. Luckily, Jamie wasn't a fussy eater. I set the table, poured him a glass of milk and went upstairs to get him out of his dress and into something that would withstand a kid's confrontation with red sauce. After dinner, I offered to watch a video with Jamie, but he wanted to go upstairs. I decided to be firm about his balancing dolls and dresses with normal boys' activities. He complained for a bit, but agreed to spend the rest of the evening with me. We sat on the couch in the den and watched Beauty and the Beast. That was one of my favorites. I loved the music. Jamie disliked the final scene where the Beast is pursued by the villagers and then seems to die protecting Belle. Thinking about it, I wondered if it raised any memories of his father's death. I doubted that he remembered much about what happened. Even so, I decided not to play that tape again. We had enough psychological issues to sort out. When it was over, we went upstairs and I put him to bed. As soon as I was sure he was asleep, I called Karen. Dave answered the phone. I went through the usual pleasantries and asked for Karen. She was at a meeting and wouldn't be home until 10. Great, the one time I need her she's not around. Stop it, Ginny. You're not being fair, I reprimanded myself. She didn't know you were going to call her. She is entitled to her own life. Thanks, Dave. I have something I need to go over with her. Nothing life or death. Well, pretty darn close, but I can't tell you that. Please ask her to give me a call when she gets in. I'll be waiting up for her. Ginny, is there something I can help you with? Dave offered. He was a really nice guy. I liked him a lot. No, Dave, thanks, but it's, well, you know, girl stuff. I want to go shopping for back-to-school clothes for Jamie tomorrow, and I have been so out of touch with what kids are wearing. I hoped Karen could give me a fashion update. I wanted to be sure I spoke to her before I bought the wrong things and he was scarred for life by the other kids making fun of him for being a nerd, I explained, checking my nose to see if it had grown significantly. Dave gave a laugh. Well, if you avoid high-top sneakers, pants that are a couple of inches too short and a pocket protector, you should be okay, from a strictly male point of view. That's exactly the reason why I want a female point of view, I kidded him. Okay, Ginny. I'll make sure that Karen gets the message. Night. Night, Dave. I hung up the phone, took out my book and tried to read to kill time until Karen called me. I had just gotten myself into the story when the phone rang, startling me. I grabbed it. Karen? Ginny, what's the matter? She asked in a concerned voice. I'm sorry to bother you, Karen, I apologized, but I saw Dr. Mitchell today and, well, I'm not sure about her, Dr. Mitchell, being the right person for us. I wanted to see what you thought about it. Why wouldn't she be the right person? Well, Dr. Mitchell, said to just let things stay the way they are, and I'm just not sure Dr. Mitchell, is giving me good advice, because Dr. Mitchell's a transsexual. What? Karen, I'm confused too. This is all new to me, and having a psychiatrist, who used to be a man, well, it's hard for me to accept. I was hoping you could help me sort it out. I mean, honestly, I like Dr. Mitchell, but that's not what's important. Whoa, Ginny, let's take this one step at a time. We'll play 20 questions, or so. Just answer yes or no, and that way there won't be any misunderstanding. Okay, sis? Okay. First, I take it you went to see Dr. Mitchell today. Yes or no? Yes. She told you she was a transsexual. No. Who told you? I can't answer that yes or no. My sister, the lawyer. We'll modify the rules to allow a one-sentence answer. Now, who told you Dr. Mitchell was a transsexual? Her secretary, Kelly. Why did she tell you about Dr. Mitchell being a transsexual? I don't know why. We were kidding around and it came out. That's 2 sentences. Ginny! Did she seem concerned about having told you? No. Why are you concerned? I don't want someone who has chosen to be a woman giving me advice about how to raise a boy not to be a girl. Yes, well, that's your problem. My problem? Yes, Ginny, it is your problem, she emphasized. People don't choose to be transgendered. They don't wake up one morning and say, gee, wouldn't it be nifty if I was the opposite sex? If Dr. Mitchell is a transsexual, and I wouldn't say so without confirmation from her, regardless of what her secretary might think, it isn't because she wants to be. It's because she has to be. I told you before, this is not my area of expertise, but I would venture that, considering how difficult it is to be transgendered, a transsexual psychiatrist would not encourage a patient to be like her, just because misery loves company. Even more so for Dr. Mitchell, because I have great respect for her and I wouldn't have recommended her to you, if I didn't. Are you sure, Karen? I mean, why didn't she tell me herself? Doesn't that mean she's keeping it hidden? She wanted me to be honest with her, but she wasn't honest with me. How can I trust her? Look, Ginny. I can't answer those questions. Only Dr. Mitchell can, and I think, since you're asking my advice, that you owe her the courtesy of asking her, before jumping to conclusions about her sincerity and objectivity. Do you have another appointment? Yes, a week from today. It's up to you, sis, but I would go back and ask her the same questions you've asked me. If she is as good a doctor as I believe she is, then she will answer them to your satisfaction. If she doesn't, then you should find another therapist. One recommendation that is often made to patients when considering a doctor is to make a list of questions to ask. A reputable doctor should not be offended by a patient wanting to make an informed choice. Okay, Karen, I will do that, and thank you. I feel better. I do hope that I can keep working with Dr. Mitchell. Karen, do you call transsexuals she, or is there another term you use? Was Dr. Mitchell wearing women's clothes? Yes. Makeup too. She was very attractive. I wished I looked that good. What am I saying? I want to look as good as a man pretending to be a woman? That doesn't make sense. Ginny, the correct pronoun is the feminine, if a transsexual is en femme, which means dressed as a woman, and a transsexual is not pretending. That's what men do for Halloween and New Year's Eve masquerade balls, but at midnight they change back. Transsexuals don't. Do you consider yourself to be a man, Ginny? Karen, don't be silly, of course not. Neither does a transsexual. But, Karen, they are. They're men who wear dresses when it isn't Halloween or New Year's Eve. You just said so. Ginny. I'm not good at explaining this. You really need to talk to Dr. Mitchell. In the meantime, I would follow her advice. It's accepted practice for all of the mental health profession. Don't go messing about with a patient's behavior until you have a definitive diagnosis and treatment plan. Thanks, Karen. That was really helpful. I want you to understand, it's not that I don't like Dr. Mitchell, and it's not that I have anything against her, just because she isn't what she seems. I just need to be sure that this is what's best for Jamie. Ginny, for goodness sake, listen to me. Dr. Mitchell is what she seems. You'll see what I mean when you talk to her. You know that I would tell you, if I had any concern. I don't. Now good night and stop being such a worrywart. Good night, sis. Love you, Ginny. Love you too. I always felt better after speaking with Karen. She was the one person in the world who I could turn to for good advice. She was always the rational one, the one who could look at any problem and find the most logical solution. I suppose that's what makes her such a good psychologist. I was an emotional mess growing up. It was a life crisis. I would do what she suggested and make a list of questions to ask Dr. Mitchell tomorrow. I turned out the light and went to sleep. The next morning I was up early. I checked to see that Jamie was still asleep and then went downstairs. I made myself 2 poached eggs on toast and poured a glass of orange juice, then took out a pad of paper and started to make up some questions for Dr. Mitchell. I tried a few times, but couldn't get it right, so there was a pile of crumbled paper on the counter. Why didn't you tell me you were a transsexual? No, too confrontational. Dr. Mitchell, Kelly, told me you were a transsexual, is that true? Better, but should I get Kelly in trouble? Dr. Mitchell, is there something about you that I should know? No, too general. Dr. Mitchell, I didn't get a chance to find out about your background the last time I was here. Would you tell me about it? Yes, polite, discreet, it doesn't get Kelly in trouble and it gives her the opportunity to be open. If she doesn't mention that she is a transsexual, then I will know she is concealing it and that Kelly spoke out of turn. Then again, Ginny, it is a personal matter, I debated with myself. She might not be keeping it secret. She just might believe that it wasn't important. After all, you're a nurse. Would it make a difference to you whether a patient was a transsexual when you were caring for him? Him? Were transsexuals only men? Would a woman want to be a man? No, Ginny, not want. Karen told you it isn't a matter of choice. Would a woman feel like a man? I suppose she could. Were you getting completely distracted from your original purpose? Yes. Look at it the other way. If you needed nursing, would it matter to you who provided it? No. Not if they were qualified, but I might if it was a gynecological problem and I knew the nurse was male. Really? There are male nurses and male gynecologists. You wouldn't let them treat you? Of course you would, if you needed it. Why couldn't a transsexual provide counseling in an area with which she was personally familiar? Wouldn't she be the best person to understand the problem? Understand it, yes. Treat it, maybe not. So should you ask her directly? Maybe you should wait and see if she brings it up herself. Wouldn't that be better? Give her the benefit of the doubt? That way she wouldn't think you didn't have confidence in her. If she thought that, she might decide she shouldn't take Jamie as a patient and you might lose the opportunity to work with the most qualified therapist you could find. Ginny, you have given yourself Excedrin headaches numbers 1 through 10. Enough. I put down my pen and crumpled the sheet of paper, tossing it in the wastebasket along with my earlier efforts. The rest of the week went by slowly. I was looking forward to seeing Dr. Mitchell on one hand and was dreading seeing her on the other. The irony was that I was worried about being considered a good mother the first time I saw her, and now the table had been turned and I was challenging her about being a good therapist. Even so, this was about Jamie, and whatever embarrassment or consequences were the result, it was something I had to do for him. Things couldn't continue as they are. School would be starting in about a month and I had to have the issue of his playing with a doll and wearing dresses under control by then. Otherwise, his entire school experience would be ruined if it came out. There's your answer, Ginny. You have no choice. Monday finally came. The night before I had told Jamie about having to go back to the hospital, and again I assured him it was just routine. He enjoyed his morning in the daycare center and didn't resist going back there. I woke him up early, got him ready, gave him a quick breakfast, and we drove to the hospital. Since I had already done the paperwork, it was much easier to leave him, and since I knew my way to Dr. Mitchell's office, it was much quicker for me to get there. I arrived at about 10 minutes to 8. The door to the reception area was open and I went in. I wasn't sure if I should let Dr. Mitchell know I was there early or wait until 8. I decided to knock on her door. I waited a minute and it opened. From a preliminary glance, I could see that Dr. Mitchell was impeccably dressed in a dark gray sheath with a matching short jacket, a pearl necklace, smoke gray stockings, and dark gray leather pumps. If she was a man, and from what I could see the jury was still out, she could put Christian Dior to shame with her fashion sense. Ginny, I'm so glad you're early. It gives us a few extra minutes. Please, she pointed to the conversation area, come in and let's get started. Good morning, Dr. Mitchell, I greeted her, as we walked to the chairs. She waited for me to sit down and then took her seat. I noticed she still did not have any recording device or notepad. Looking at her more closely, I could see that her makeup was as perfect as her outfit. Eyeliner, maybe just a hint of smoky opalescent eyeshadow, probably mascara, from the fullness of her eyelashes, subtly applied blush, if she had foundation it was imperceptible, maybe she just had really good skin, and her signature plum-colored lipstick. She must have caught me staring and smiled. I looked down in embarrassment. It took me forever to learn to do my hair and face. Luckily, my stepfather is a world-class cosmetician and hairdresser. If it wasn't for his efforts and education, I would have never made it through high school as a girl. She seemed surprised by the astonished look on my face. Not that I was surprised she was what Kelly had said, but that she was so nonchalant about it. You didn't know that I was transgendered? I wasn't sure, I admitted. Kelly mentioned it last week, but Karen, my sister, Dr. Dalton, well, I did have some, I don't know, honestly, reservations about your judgment, so she told me to ask you about it today. Then I realized I had spilled the beans about Kelly. Oh dear, Dr. Mitchell, I hope I didn't get Kelly in trouble. We were just having conversation and she was very complimentary, I added in her defense. Dr. Mitchell grinned, exposing white teeth set off by her darker shade of lipstick, and tossed her hair back in a typical feminine gesture. You don't have to get Kelly in trouble. She's perfectly capable of doing it by herself. However, she has organized or disorganized my office, depending on how you look at it, so that she is indispensable. I wouldn't have a clue how to function without her, and she knows it, so she is pretty impertinent sometimes. That having been said, my being transgendered is not a secret. I just assumed that you knew. That is the reason most of my transgendered patients come to me and feel comfortable working with me, because we have a common understanding of the issues. If we were little kids, I'd use the playground retort to an insult, that it takes one to know one. Kelly used the word transsexual. That's what I am. I was thinking of getting a big red T tattooed on my forehead to warn people who might not know about me, but you'd be surprised how hard it is to find makeup to coordinate with a scarlet letter. She said it with such sincerity that it took me a minute before I caught on to the humor. I struggled to maintain my decorum, but I lost and couldn't help giggling. Dr. Mitchell gave me a big smile. I don't understand, Dr. Jenny, you look so. I couldn't get myself to say the words. Realistic, convincing, I finally came up with feminine. Amazing what a boatload of hormones, a couple of bags of silicone and the removal of some superfluous plumbing can do for you, she retorted. I couldn't help myself, I cracked up. None of that would make a man a woman, I finally got out. He'd just be a very emotional soprano with a lumpy chest, I kidded her back. Now it was Jenny's turn to crack up. That is the best response I have ever heard. Maybe you and I should do a comedy routine. Laughter is the best medicine, so they say. Although I suppose that depends on whether you're the laugher or the laughy. Most of my patients would not find our jokes amusing. But you are exactly right, Ginny. Being transgendered is a state of mind, not body. Physical appearance simply helps others to relate to you in the proper perspective, which brings us full circle to your son's behavior. She looked at her watch. 30 minutes, and that's pushing it. Last week I recommend that you let nature take its course. What course did Jamie's nature take? The same one. He plays with his doll. He has learned to change her dress, and when he does, he has me dress him in the matching outfit, or at least the one he associates with each of the doll's outfits. His party dress does match hers. The tank top dress doesn't, but he seems to understand that the doll and he can't have a coordinated wardrobe. Other than that, he seems normal. We go out, have lunch at one of the kiddie restaurants, go to the park and play and watch videos. When we go out, he doesn't make a fuss about leaving his doll at home, and he doesn't seem to mind wearing his boy's clothes. That's about it. He's no better and no worse than last week. Since we haven't made a diagnosis, it's hard to say whether he is better or worse. Sometimes staying the same is a good thing and sometimes it isn't. Think about someone who gets lost while hiking. Staying in the same place is not a good thing. They are still lost. It is true they won't get more lost, but can you be more lost than lost? What they won't accomplish by staying in the same place is finding their way out. Yes, but aren't people told to remain where they are, so it is easier for rescuers to track them down, rather than wandering around aimlessly? A true outdoors woman. Yes, Ginny, if you're sure help is on the way. However, to continue with the metaphor, in my practice, I want my patients to be self-reliant. My job is to point them in the right direction and to teach them how to recognize and avoid dangers on the way out. Doctor, Jenny, sorry my nursing training makes it hard for me to call doctors by their first name. Jenny, I started again, how can you be? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful. You cannot hurt my feelings, Ginny. If there is something that might interfere with our relationship, then you do neither of us a favor by not telling me about it, she interrupted me. How can your being a transsexual not affect the direction in which you point your patients? It does affect my work, Ginny, but not in the way you mean. Did Miss Bigmouth happen to mention that I am married and have children? Yes. It was a very difficult transition from boy to girl, Ginny. It always is. You're an attractive woman. I imagine that when you were in high school you had your share of boyfriends. Yes, I did have boyfriends, but no steady. There was a boy I liked. His name was Brian. He liked me too. I was open about being transgendered in high school. I wasn't a transsexual then. That's a decision that can't be made until you're an adult, so you can give informed consent, and even then, you have to have undergone lengthy counseling and received the therapist's approval. I was still physically a boy. We saw each other secretly because the other kids would have made fun of him if they found out he was dating me. Nothing physical. Eventually, I fell in love with him. I couldn't help it. He is everything a girl could look for in a man. She paused and looked at me. I know you lost your husband. I hope this isn't difficult for you, but there is a point I'm getting to. No, Doctor, Jenny, please continue. I was very happy with Jim, my husband, and wouldn't trade that time or my memories for all the riches in the world. I am not jealous of other people's happiness. Thank you. You are a very impressive woman, Ginny. That was quite a compliment from someone whose profession is analyzing people. I smiled and bowed my head in recognition. We got married and I wanted to have his child. Obviously, I was not equipped for that, so I used my influence as a doctor to convince the fertility clinic in the hospital to get me an egg donor. When I told my older sister, Beth, about it, she had a fit. No niece or nephew of mine is going to be a stranger, Jenny. Beth was always bossy. Been there, I agreed. She offered to give me one of her eggs, so that the baby would be a member of our family genetically. Of course, she also offered to let Brian come over and fertilize it. I chuckled. When my little sister, Susie, heard what Beth had offered, the little show-off had to top her. I want to have your baby, sis, she insisted. So Brian Jr. is a family effort. Brian and I didn't want him to be an only child, but we couldn't ask Beth and Susie to go through it again, so we adopted a Chinese baby. She came with a birth certificate as being named Mingmei, which means smart and beautiful, but we call her Mimi. That's a pretty name. Ginny, I love my children with all my heart. They're still young, but eventually I am going to have to tell them about me. I don't know when I will tell them, I don't know how I will tell them, I don't know what I will tell them, but I can't deceive them. You said you were terrified about losing Jamie. That will never happen, if I can help it. But I am just as terrified about losing my children when they find out the truth, and I can't help that. Nobody can. Do you see now why I would never encourage anyone to be like me? The woman had shown me how vulnerable she was to make me understand that I had nothing to be concerned about, because she was a transsexual. I could see now why Kelly loved her. I stood up. Jenny, please, I need a hug, I told her emotionally. It must be contagious. I need one too. We embraced as sisters, and any doubt about her sincerity or objectivity was gone. When we released, we sat down. Returning to her professional demeanor, Jenny looked at her watch. We now have 15 minutes to deal with Jamie. I would like to meet him next session. He won't be starting school for about a month, so he is available. I'll bring him with me, I agreed. I would also like to try a little experiment. It's controversial and it's up to you, but I don't know of another way to find out how he feels about his gender. A 6-year-old doesn't understand the biological or anatomical differences that distinguish boys from girls. All he knows at his age is that there is one group of people who dress and act differently than another group of people. That makes it very difficult to determine if what he is doing is an early expression of his being transgendered, a behavior that will make him increasingly fascinated with looking and acting feminine, or there is something else going on. From what you have told me, Jamie's interest in being feminine is related to his playing with his doll. Yes, he asks me dress him up when he wants to play with her. I would recommend that you buy him more girls' clothes and see how he reacts to them. Does he want to join the group of people who he recognizes as being girls by their attire, or are the clothes only important for whatever role he is taking when he plays with the doll? I would try to make the clothes feminine enough that they are easily recognizable as distinctly for girls, and I would try to make them different enough that they don't correspond to the doll's dresses. Then just let him choose what he wants to wear. Ginny, it is very important for the experiment that you don't give him any cues. Don't encourage him to dress one way or the other. Don't discourage him from mixing and matching, even though he may look silly. Don't compliment him if he looks nice. Try not to even give him subliminal messages by smiling or frowning or being enthusiastic or unenthusiastic when he picks out his clothes. It has to be completely his decision or it won't be valid. After our discussion, I had no reason to doubt Jenny's prescription. Okay, you're the doctor, I acknowledged. I will take Jamie on a shopping spree. No, don't take him, Ginny. I don't want him involved with it. Since you will be only shopping for girls' clothes, I don't want him to associate them with spending time with you. I want you to do it casually. Just give them to him the same way you would if they were boys' clothes. You wouldn't make a fuss about a pair of jeans and a sports shirt, so don't make one over a skirt and blouse. Do you understand what you need to do to make this work? Yes, Jenny, but what do I do with him once he picks out his clothes, if he dresses as a girl? For the experiment to work, the effect of what he wears has to be neutral. He can't think that wearing one type of clothes gets him a trip to the zoo and ice cream and wearing another type of clothes gets him stuck in the house by himself. You mean I should take him out dressed as a girl? Yes. At his age, most people can't tell the difference. I would be careful about exposing him to situations where he might be outed. Jenny saw that I had a puzzled look. Sorry, I forgot you're new to this. Outed means two things. First, that someone recognizes you under circumstances where you're exhibiting behavior you wanted to keep private, cross-dressing or having a romantic relationship with a partner of the same sex. Second, that someone publicly discloses your gender preference or sexual orientation, that you're transgendered, gay, or lesbian. Oh. I could take him to Karen's for the week. They've been begging me to visit. I know she would be okay with Jamie dressing like a girl. I bet her daughters would love a girl cousin too. I'm not sure about her husband. Men seem to be more traditional when it comes to that type of thing. Karen and I talked about how Jim would never have let me buy Jamie a doll, let alone a dress. I suppose I could run it by her. If anybody could make it work, it would be her. That sounds like a good plan, but, Ginny, we don't know if Jamie won't prefer being a boy. That's what the experiment is designed to discover. You can talk to your sister about it. She's a professional and will understand, but I wouldn't have her announce it to the rest of her family until we have some assurance Jamie wants to dress as a girl. You need to go slow with this. And Ginny, speaking of going slow, be mindful of the differences in the way mothers treat sons and daughters. It's well established that mothers are much more tactile with girls, fussing with their hair and clothes, holding them, touching them. Jenny looked at her watch. That's a wrap, my dear. Same time next week, please. Yes, ma'am. And Jenny, could you spare another hug, please? By coincidence, I do happen to have an extra one handy. We stood and embraced one another, and then she walked me to the door. Opening it, she told Kelly, who had arrived and was at her desk, same time for Ms. McCarthy, and she will be bringing Jamie with her. I want a longer session with them both, so see if you can cancel Jacqueline. She can get through the week without me holding her hand. Tell her to call me if she has another crisis with her girlfriend. Jenny looked at me and shrugged, then went back into her office and closed the door. Kelly handed me the appointment card. You can't marry Dr. Mitchell, I told her. I'm going to. Unfortunately for us and fortunately for her, we'll have to get in line behind her husband, at least until bigamy becomes legal. Maybe she'll adopt us. She'd probably be as good a mother as a wife. Bunny slippers, cocoa, and a bedtime story from Dr. Mommy sounds delicious. I think that Dr. Mitchell has enough going on with her own children, I replied cryptically. Kelly knew her well enough to get the meaning. Yes, she sighed. We've talked about it over the years. She's been working with a wonderful older woman, Dr. Goldfarb, since she was a child herself. This was Dr. Goldfarb's office. Jenny went into practice with her when she finished her postgraduate work. Dr. Goldfarb retired a few years ago, but Jenny still sees her regularly. I can't imagine how hard it is for her. Not only dealing with the problems of her patients, I can't tell you specifics, but some of their stories would break your heart, Ginny. You don't know how blessed we are to be content with being women. Then she has to go home and deal with her own problems. Thank God for Brian. He is an exceptional man. And Dr. Mitchell is an exceptional woman. You won't get an argument from me. Thanks, Kelly. See you next week. Yes, I'm looking forward to meeting Jamie. In fact, you know what? I'm coming in early, so I'll be here when you arrive. You don't have to do that, we'll be fine. I don't have to. I want to. You're married, aren't you? Yes, you caught me again. I wouldn't really divorce George to marry Dr. Mitchell. At least not this week. Why? Well, if I can't marry Dr. Mitchell, I was going to propose to you, but I guess I'm destined to be an old maid. Doubtful, Ms. McCarthy. Bye. Kelly waved and then blew me a kiss. I caught it and planted it on my cheek, which got her to laugh. I went to the daycare center, got Jamie, and we drove home. The rest of the day was routine for Jamie, but I was planning how to go shopping without him. I couldn't get a babysitter because he would want to play with his doll and dress up, which she wouldn't understand. I couldn't make a play date because I couldn't count on his discretion. Then the idea of leaving him at the hospital's daycare center struck me. I could drop him off in the morning, go to the mall, and then pick him up in the afternoon. It would be a long day for him, but he was used to the center. Would they give him lunch or would I have to pack it for him? I wondered. I decided to call and find out. Francine, the head of the center, was very accommodating when I explained that I needed to do some testing, which was true in a sense. It just wasn't medical testing in the usual sense. No, they could provide lunch from the cafeteria. There was a $5 charge. Or I could bring his food, if he was a fussy eater or had some dietary restrictions. I decided I would pack him a bag lunch. He was always happy with PB&J. I could add one of his favorite cookies and a banana. That should hold him. Francine said they could give him a carton of milk or juice at no charge. They kept it in their fridge for snack time. That took care of the logistics of buying Jamie his trousseau. Tuesday morning I dropped him off at the center and drove to the mall. I could have stayed downtown, but I was more comfortable shopping in a store that I knew. I went into the girls' 4-6X department and saw that Claire was working. I went over to the sales counter and said hello. She didn't recognize me until I reminded her of the pink party dress I bought for my daughter. Oh yes, the pretty redhead with the green eyes. Now I remember you. I want to take you up on your offer to pick out some back-to-school clothes for her. Of course. Did you have anything special in mind? Well, she's pretty much of a tomboy. I was hoping that when she started school she would want to be more feminine, so the more girly the better, if you know what I mean. I hoped Claire did, because I didn't. Yes, of course. My little sister was like that. All she wore was jeans or pants and jerseys. Mom tried everything to coax her into skirts and dresses, but it wasn't until she discovered boys that she realized showing off some skin was a good thing. Let's see what we can find to catch her fancy. She paused. She did wear the party dress, didn't she? Yes, it was for a special occasion and I insisted that she get dressed up. That's why I bought the underwear to go with it. All she wears is the plain cotton briefs. She needs the works. The works it is, Claire agreed enthusiastically, probably thinking about her commission. Then again, if she got me what I needed, she deserved it. I would recommend a corduroy jumper with a linen blouse. They're in style, very comfortable and easy for kids to dress themselves in. Add some nylon panties and a nylon camisole and they feel really pretty. Knee socks are easy to wear too and look great with a jumper. She should have at least one A-line dress. We have some nice ones in an easy care polyester blend. Tights complete the outfit. Of course she needs a couple of skirts too, Claire recommended, getting carried away, but I didn't want to discourage her. Kilts are in. So are pleated skirts. A pullover top will go with both and you can mix and match the knee socks and tights. That should pretty much do it. Do you want to look around or do you want me to bring you a selection? I trust your judgment, Claire, and you know styles and your stock better, so why don't you start? Jamie is a size 6. Super. She started off, gathering things from racks. It was still a few weeks before school started and early in the morning, so it was quiet and Claire could give me her full attention. I waited by the sales counter as she brought back armfuls of clothes. She was really into being Jamie's personal shopper. Going through her selection, there was a rainbow of colors and soft, silky coordinating items that would have delighted any little girl. I complimented her on choices and gave her my credit card. You want everything I picked out, Mrs. McCarthy? Yes. I'll take it home and see how they look on Jamie. He's visiting his aunt, which gave me more time to shop. I know he. Oh no. I outed him. Just what Dr. Mitchell had warned me against. Ginny, you're an idiot. I could see Claire give me a strange look. I decided that I could confide in her. There was no reason she wouldn't sell me the clothes. I just wouldn't come back, if it was a problem. Claire, I'm sorry to have told you a story. Jamie's a boy. Well, we're not sure, but he likes to dress as a girl sometimes. That's why I bought him the party dress. We want to see how he feels about becoming more feminine. He may not care about the clothes, which would be fine, or he may like them. I won't know until I bring them home and give him the opportunity to wear them. Cool, was all she said. Cool? I echoed. Hey, I sell clothes, Mrs. McCarthy. What my customers do with them is their business. And who am I to judge anyway? I bet your son will look really pretty all dolled up in his new outfits. If he doesn't like them, just bring them back. Since you're taking them on approval I'm going to ring them up on my account. You get the discount and I won't have to deal with the paperwork reversing my commission. Claire, thank you. That's very understanding and generous, I said appreciatively. No problem. You're welcome to shop with me anytime, she offered, ringing up and bagging the items. And Jamie's welcome too. It will be our secret. Thank you again, Claire. You've made this much easier. My pleasure. Please let me know how things work out. I will. I took my bags back to the car and put them in the trunk. Then I went back to the discount shoe store and bought Jamie a pair of casual pumps with a little heel that he could step into to go with his dresses, and a pair of black leather T-straps. There was also a pair of pink and tan saddle shoes I couldn't resist. I added those to the collection in my trunk and made a final trip to the accessory store, where I picked out some hair items, some magnetic earrings, a gold-tone heart locket necklace and a matching bracelet. I didn't know how far Jamie would want to go dressing up. He may not be interested at all, or he may enjoy his new wardrobe, but I wanted to be ready, especially if I was going to take him out. I think the word Karen used was en femme, dressed as a girl, so he would be as convincing as possible. Not that it probably mattered, since I couldn't keep my big mouth shut. Then again, I wasn't exactly an old hand at having a son who might be a girl at heart. I picked Jamie up from the daycare center and took him home. As usual, he went upstairs, got his doll and asked me to help him get dressed. Instead, I told him that I had bought him some new clothes and wanted to show them to him. I brought in all of the bags and boxes of shoes and began laying them out on his bed, trying to put them together in outfits, skirt and top, tights or knee socks and shoes. Jamie watched me, and when I was finished, I told him I had to get something downstairs, but he could pick out what he liked and I would help him put it on when I came back. I left, wondering what I would find when I returned. I managed to keep my curiosity in check and stayed downstairs for about 15 minutes to give Jamie time to make his selection. When I finally went into his room, he was sitting on the floor with his doll. He looked up when I came in. Jamie, honey, I asked casually, as if it didn't matter, have you decided what you'd like to wear? His response took me by surprise. My dress, Mommy, please. Which dress? I asked, puzzled. I was hoping it would be one of his new ones or maybe one of the skirts. They were the same as a dress from the waist down, and since Jamie never had a skirt before, he might not know the difference. My dress, Mommy, he repeated. They're all your dresses, sweetie, I pointed out. No, the one Jamie wears too. You mean Jamie, your doll? Yes, Mommy. Your party dress? He nodded his head. Wouldn't you like to wear one of these? I suggested, knowing that I was not following Dr. Mitchell's instructions by expressing my preference, but then it wasn't between boys' and girls' clothes, just one type of girls' clothes and another. He shook his head. No, Mommy. At this point I had no choice. If I was any more explicit, it would definitely affect the outcome of the experiment. Okay, sweetie, I agreed, getting the dress from his closet and finding the rest of the items that he wore with it. Get yourself undressed. After putting Jamie into his party dress, I left him to play. Have fun, honey, I remarked pleasantly, not wanting to show my disappointment that the experiment had failed. The best laid plans of psychiatrists and mothers, I thought to myself as I went downstairs, but why? It seemed so logical. Give Jamie a choice between pretty girl's clothes and his usual boy's clothes and see which he preferred. Perhaps, Ginny, the logic of a 6-year-old was different. What were you missing? Maybe the girl's clothes didn't mean the same to him as they did to you and Dr. Mitchell. Why should they? He knew nothing about them. Most of the time he got together with his cousins, they wore jeans, tops, and sneakers. Then I remembered our conversation at the mall, when I was telling him why he couldn't have a dress. Only girls wear dresses, I told him. He asked me why and I explained that girls wore different clothes than boys. He disagreed. Girls wear pants and shirts like him, he told me. Then it hit me. Ginny, it's not the clothes, it's the doll he cares about. Debbie and Cindy are girls. When he goes to their house, they play with dolls, so having a doll, not wearing a dress, is what makes them girls. Maybe he is transgendered. He's just expressing it in a different way. Is that possible? I'd have to ask Dr. Mitchell at our next appointment. In the meantime, Ginny, is there a plan B? Do you need one? If there is no plan B, then there is no need for the clothes, I reasoned. I should take them back. Why are you admitting defeat so easily? Just find a way to leave the doll out of the experiment and it will work, but how? Of course! He isn't allowed to take the doll out of the house. Take him out and let him wear whatever he wants. Dr. Mitchell said you could take him out dressed as a girl. Brilliant, Ginny, if you do say so yourself. It was still early. I decided to let him have another hour to play, just to be sure he didn't suspect anything. Around 5 o'clock, I called up to him. Jamie, I didn't have a chance to go grocery shopping, honey. Let's go out for dinner. I'm coming up in a few minutes to get you ready. Finish up whatever you're doing, then take off your dress and pick out something else to wear. As before, I controlled my curiosity and gave him 10 minutes. Then I went upstairs, anxious to see what he had picked out. Nothing. He had taken off the dress, which was on the bed with the other clothes, and was wearing the nylon panties and cami. Jamie, you'll be starting school in a few weeks and children who go to school get themselves dressed. Let's practice, I encouraged him. What would you like to wear, honey? Anything on the bed or in your closet, you choose. He looked at me blankly. Well, Ginny, why would he care about what he wears? Girls are taught to appreciate fashion. Mothers are always oohing and eyeing over their daughters' clothes, reinforcing how looking pretty is essential to their femininity. Jamie wasn't brought up that way. As far as he knows, one pair of pants or shirt is as good as another and the same plain white underpants go with everything. Should I start to educate him about how girls dress themselves, or is that contrary to Dr. Mitchell's admonition about my influencing his choice? You know the answer, so why even ask the question? So much for Plan B. Is there a Plan C? Let's see. Whatever plan you come up with, it has to have something to do with the doll. That's the key to his dressing in girls' clothes. What if you let him take the doll with him when you go out to dinner? No, you've already made a rule that he can't take the doll out of the house. Even if you did let him, he'd pick his party dress. Think, Ginny. Yes, that's it. Jamie wears the same thing as the doll, so if you want him to wear the clothes you bought for him, then the doll has to wear them too. All you have to do is to buy the doll matching clothes. Since you're not doing anything to influence his behavior, at least directly, the experiment should still be valid. Okay, here goes. Jamie, let's stop off at the toy store after dinner. I promised you a big toy and we ended up with just one dress for your doll. Wouldn't you like to have more clothes for her to wear, honey? Jamie shrugged. Words, please. I guess so, Mommy. What kind of clothes, he wondered. We'll see what there is. I bet she'd like a skirt and top and maybe something for her legs, just like what I bought for you, I suggested. Jamie looked at the clothes on his bed. Like these, Mommy? Yes, Jamie. Those are for you and we can find the same things for the doll. Wouldn't you like to look like her? Can I? Well, I did say that you couldn't always look like her, emphasizing always, but sometimes it's okay for you to dress the same, emphasizing sometimes, I equivocated. Okay, he agreed. Okay, then. Let's go. I decided to let him wear his familiar boy's clothes and gradually move into taking him out as a girl, once he'd become comfortable with his new wardrobe by playing dress up with his doll. I had him change out of his panties, put on his briefs, a pair of shorts and exchanged the cami for a t-shirt. White socks and his old sneakers, a quick session with the comb, and we were ready. Dinner was pizza and then we were off to the toy store. By now I knew how to navigate to the dolls section and find the right clothing. Studying the display, I was surprised by the wide variety of styles, colors, and materials. Anything that you could find in a regular department store was there. Looking at the price tags, you could probably buy the same things for real in a department store, but I wasn't bargain hunting. If this helped Jamie to express his feminine nature, if he had one, it was worth it. Jamie, there are lots of pretty things here for your doll. What do you think she'd like? I asked him, hoping that he would express his own preference. I don't know, Mommy. A dress? Yes, we can buy her another dress, but she already has 2 of them. How about buying her a skirt and some tops? Those are fun to wear. And tights would look nice on her. Shall I pick out a few things and you can decide what you want to keep after we get them home? I offered as a compromise. I guess so, Jamie conceded. I sorted through the clothes, trying to find things that were similar to what I had bought Jamie. I found a jumper, a pleated skirt, a kilt and an A-line dress, 2 blouses, a pullover top and an assortment of tights and knee socks. The colors and materials were different, but he had accepted my old tank top as the counterpart for the doll's dress we bought last time, so I hoped he wouldn't be too fussy about these. When I had finished making my selection, I turned to him and asked if there was anything else he saw that he would like me to buy. He had no additions to make. I carried the collection to the checkout counter. The woman gave me a curious look as she began to scan them. We're having a birthday party for my daughter and her girlfriends are all binging over their dolls. I'm going to give the clothes as prizes for the games, I explained creatively. The woman gave me a small smile and continued to scan the items. When she had totaled it up, I handed her my credit card, she rang it through, put the clothes in a plastic bag and we left. By the time we got home it was past Jamie's bedtime. I told him that I would get all of the clothes ready and leave them in his room, so he could play with them in the morning. Jamie was tired and didn't protest. We went through his usual nighttime routine. I read him and the doll's story and tiptoed out as he nodded off. I went downstairs, found a large plastic storage container and put all of the clothes in it. I took the box upstairs and left it on the floor of Jamie's room. I went into my room, got myself ready for bed and read until I was sleepy. I turned out the light and laid in the dark, wondering if Plan C would work. You'll know in the morning, Ginny. My alarm went off at 7:30. I got up, put on a robe and went into Jamie's room. He was still asleep, so I went downstairs for my morning cup of tea. Jim was a coffee drinker and I would join him to be sociable, but I preferred tea. He would have 2 cups while I was only halfway through mine. He thought I didn't like hot beverages, so I was waiting for it to cool, but I was stalling, and after he left, I would pour it out. The only time I couldn't get away with my little trick was if we went out for breakfast. Luckily, or perhaps unfortunately in retrospect, considering how little time we had together, we didn't go out for breakfast often, as we had more intimate morning activities to occupy ourselves. I missed him. Come on, Ginny, no time for that, I scolded myself. Jamie needs you. He'll be up soon. Get yourself together. I went back upstairs and got dressed. I looked in on him again and I could see that he was beginning to wake up. I debated whether I should offer to pick out an outfit for the doll and him or give him time to do it himself. I decided to wait. I went back downstairs. After watching the clock on the microwave advance through 15 minutes, Jamie appeared. He had obediently left the doll on the stairs and was still in his pajamas. Glancing into the hallway, I saw that the doll was still wearing her party dress from last night. I gave Jamie breakfast and then sent him upstairs. Showtime, or maybe not, be patient. About 10 minutes later, Jamie came back downstairs. He had the doll and he also had something in his hand. He was holding a pair of white tights I bought for him and a pair I bought for the doll. I noticed that he had put on the nylon panties and cami he wore with his dresses. You want me to help you, honey? Yes, please, Mommy. I don't know how. Do you want me to dress your doll or you first? Jamie. You mean Jamie, you doll? Uh-huh. Yes, please, he corrected himself. Can I have her, please? He handed the doll to me and I put her on the table. He had already taken off her party dress and she had on just her panties and white socks. I left on the panties and removed her socks. I looked down and saw that Jamie was barefoot. The way to put on tights, I explained, is to bunch up one leg, like this. I demonstrated how to use your fingers to gather the material until it was all scrunched up with just the foot sticking out. First you do one side and then you put your foot in and unroll it a little bit, I showed him, pulling the fabric up to below the doll's knee. Then you do the same thing to the other leg. Once you have both legs in, you pull them up gently until the waistband of the panty part is around your hips. Then you run your hands up the legs to smooth them until the bottom part of the panty is in place. I avoided using the word crotch. See, the tights cover her legs and the panty part holds them up. Do you want to try putting on your tights? Jamie looked at the tights and then at me. He shook his head. No, Mommy, you do it, please. Sit in the chair, honey, and stick out your right foot, I instructed him, bunching up the right leg of the tights the same way I had when I was dressing the doll. Point your toe. I slipped his toe into the foot and worked the material up a little way. Do you like the way it feels, Jamie? He nodded and I didn't correct him. It was too special a moment, helping him to be a girl for the first time. When I dressed him up before, he was my son. Now he was my daughter. This wasn't a costume to match what his doll was wearing, they were his clothes. The ones he would wear for the rest of his life. Ginny? They're tights. Male dancers wear tights. So do men on the flying trapeze, don't they? And wasn't there once something about a football player who wore pantyhose to keep his legs warm? You and Karen giggled when you heard about it. Boys in pantyhose seemed so silly, little did you know. So Jamie hasn't committed himself to being transgendered. Not yet, anyway. This was just an experiment and it took 3 tries before you got it right. Maybe you got it right, I corrected myself. Wait to see what Dr. Mitchell thinks, before you sign him up for ballet class. I laughed to myself. He could wear the tights either way, but I'd have to hold off on the tutu. Once Jamie had on his tights, he went back upstairs. I wondered whether he would understand that they were underwear and pick out something to wear over them, one of his dresses, a skirt, or maybe his own clothes. Dr. Mitchell told me not to say anything if his inexperience resulted in him mixing boys' and girls' clothes. Now I was really curious, but I let him have time to make his own choice. After about 15 minutes he came downstairs in the jumper and he had put the same thing on the doll. The doll had on her black shoes and he was wearing his Mary Janes. What was missing was a top. He wore the jumper like a dress, with just his camisole underneath and the doll had nothing on under it. "Can you help me, Mommy, please?" he asked, turning around to have me pull up the zipper, the way I did when he was putting on his party dress. "Sure, honey." I zipped up the back and fastened the hook at the top. The doll's dress just pulled over her head. I thought about suggesting that he find a blouse to put on, but I refrained from coaching him. I also resisted complimenting him on how nice he looked. Jamie went back upstairs to play. I wondered if he would change the doll into some of the other outfits, but he spent the rest of the day dressed as he was and so did the doll. Well, it was a start. Let's see what tomorrow brings, Ginny. Maybe he just needed to get it out of his system and now that he has done it, he will be himself again. Unless, of course, his self was a girl in a boy's body, the way Karen explained being transgendered. I puttered around the house for the rest of the day. I was anxious to try taking Jamie out dressed as a girl, but I decided to wait until I was sure he accepted his new wardrobe as everyday clothes, not just what he wore to play with his doll. I also wanted to give him some time to learn about coordinating his outfits, so he wouldn't be embarrassed by people staring. That evening we watched TV together. He had forgotten about the way to sit in a dress, so I re-instructed him about acting ladylike. To my surprise, he was very cooperative. Would a boy care? Was this more evidence of his being transgendered, or was he just a good kid who wanted to please his mother? When it was bedtime, I helped him to get undressed, since he couldn't manage the zipper on the back of his jumper. As I was exchanging his panties for briefs, I had a thought that I should have bought him a nightgown, something really frilly and lacy, so that he could continue to feel feminine even at bedtime. Did little girls even wear nightgowns to sleep in anymore? I didn't when I was growing up, and neither did Karen. Either extra-large t-shirts or regular-sized ones with boxers in the summer and flannel PJs in the winter were more practical. Maybe just a pair of pink nylon pajamas for him would be a nice transition. He could keep his panties on. For some reason, the image of Jamie in a baby doll nightie with little ruffled panties peeking out from under the short top struck me. "Ginny, really?" After breakfast the next morning, I gave Jamie the opportunity to select his own clothes again. I wondered if he was interested in trying different outfits, or his choices were just random. If he took whatever he happened to pick up first? Since he didn't know what went with what, I didn't see how it could be otherwise. That would explain why he didn't pick out a blouse or top to wear with his jumper yesterday. Even so, that was only the first day, Ginny. He could have ignored all of his new clothes and gone back to the party dress, like he did with Plan A. I busied myself around the kitchen, so it wouldn't seem like I was too interested in what he was wearing. Finally, he appeared. I pretended not to notice. "Mommy?" he asked to get my attention. "Oh, hi, sweetie." A casual look revealed he was still in his pajamas. "Do you want to play with Jamie?" he asked me. "You mean Jamie, your doll?" He nodded his head. This was a development I hadn't anticipated. The last time I asked, he didn't want to share her. Either he was becoming more sociable in whatever he played with the doll, or he was tacitly admitting he needed my help with her new clothes. There was only one way to find out. "Sure, honey. Let's go upstairs." We went up to his bedroom. All of the doll's outfits were still in the plastic box, except for the tights and jumper, which she was still wearing. I looked through the selection and picked out a few things. Let's see. Jamie has never worn a skirt before. I think she'd like this one. I held out the blue, yellow, green and red plaid kilt. She needs something to cover her on top. I found a yellow long-sleeved blouse with a Peter Pan collar. How about this? I asked rhetorically. She's got her panties on already. Just some knee socks, I think. I found a pair of dark blue ones. There. Do you want me to help you get her dressed? Yes, please. I explained what I was doing as I fastened the kilt around her waist, pulled on the knee socks and slipped on the blouse, fastening the buttons. When she was all dressed, I held her out to Jamie. He took her and cradled her in the crook of his arm, the way I had shown him to hold a baby. What would you like to wear, Jamie? I asked neutrally. Her clothes, Mommy. You mean the same thing that Jamie is wearing, a skirt and blouse? Yes. Well, he did make the choice. Finding the clothes and helping him into them wasn't really getting involved. Okay, it was, but in for a penny, in for a pound. Oh, for goodness sake, Ginny. Get over that expression. It's just an excuse to do what you want and you know it. I found the more or less matching items I had bought for Jamie and helped him get dressed. With his Irish heritage, he really looked cute. Any little girl who saw him would be jealous. I was glad that I hadn't cut his hair yet. I wouldn't have the slightest hesitation about taking him out as my daughter in that outfit. Except that it was still summer and he was dressed for fall. The little girl sweltering in long sleeves, knee socks and a wool skirt would certainly draw attention. You forgot all about the seasonal wardrobe you bought him. How could you take him out in the summer dressed like that? Go ahead and play, sweetie. Mommy's got some things she has to do. Maybe later we can go out, I suggested optimistically. Assuming Mommy can solve your wardrobe problem, I thought to myself. Okay, Ginny, he can't wear those clothes now. Either you have to buy him something appropriate for summer or give up on taking him out as a girl. Claire was really sweet. You could take him back to the mall. That would work, but didn't Dr. Mitchell tell you not to take him shopping, so he wouldn't associate girls' clothes with having fun? Yes, but you won't be shopping for him as a girl. He'll be dressed as a boy. It won't be any different than the other times you've gone shopping with him. He doesn't need to get involved in choosing the clothes, and now you know his size, so he doesn't have to try them on in the store. Besides, if you don't buy him some summer outfits, then he has to stay home when he's dressed as a girl, which is contrary to Dr. Mitchell's recommendation that he do whatever he would do normally, regardless of what he was wearing. Jamie, you can play for a while, then I have to change you into your other clothes and we can go to the mall. An hour later I interrupted his playing. I still had no idea what it was he did with his doll without any accessories. I changed him into his shorts and a t-shirt, socks and sneakers. We drove to the mall and went into the department store. I looked around and saw Claire sorting through a rack of dresses. I walked over to her. Hi, Claire. She turned around. Oh, hi, Mrs. McCarthy. She remembered my name, but then how many mothers shop in the girls' 4-6X department for their sons and lie to her about it? I certainly was memorable. Do you have some returns? Then she recognized Jamie. Hi, Jamie, she greeted him. She remembered his name too, but then to how many boys has she sold a party dress? Say hi to Claire, Jamie. Hi. No returns. That seems to have worked out. Actually, that is the problem in a way. Everything I bought was for fall and Jamie has nothing to wear now. Do you have any summer clothes left? Oh, sure, Mrs. McCarthy. We moved them all to the clearance area at the back of the department. She pointed. We haven't advertised our end of summer sale yet, that won't be until mid-August, so there's still a pretty good selection of styles and sizes. Do you want me to find some things for Jamie? Yes, please. You have good taste. I'm sure whatever you pick out will do nicely. I'm going to take Jamie for some ice cream. It's better if we're not around. It's complicated. Anyway, here's my credit card. I handed it to her. I'll be back in about 15 minutes. Oh, and if you don't mind, I rolled my eyes, we need some cotton undies too. Thanks, you're a doll. I winced at the word doll, which got a curious look from Claire. It's complicated, I reiterated. Jamie and I had our usual ice cream and returned to find Claire at the sales counter with a number of items laid out. Do you want me to show you what I picked out? I shook my head. I'm sure it's fine. I didn't want to ring it up without your approval. Are you sure? Yes. Okay, I'll ring it on my account again. Just in case, she said with a smile. Claire, it's not necessary. You deserve your commission. I'm sure we'll keep the clothes, really. That's very nice of you, Mrs. McCarthy, but, well, I want to do this for Jamie. I hope everything works out for her. I was impressed both with Claire's empathy and her willingness to recognize Jamie as a girl. Thank you again, Claire. I don't know what I would do without you. No problem, Mrs. McCarthy. She smiled as she finished scanning the tickets and ran the receipt. I signed it while she folded the clothes with tissue paper and put them in the bag. It looked to be an assortment of dresses, skirts and tops, with a couple of packages of assorted pastel cotton panties and matching tank tops. I was impressed that she remembered I wanted the clothes to be very girly. When she had everything packed, she handed me the 2 big bags. I thanked her again, had Jamie say thank you to her, and we went back to the car. Jamie sat quietly as we drove home. Once we were in the house, I sent Jamie upstairs to play, while I looked through what Claire had picked out for him or her. I suppose I should start referring to him as a girl. To her as a girl? This was confusing, since there were times when he was still a boy, or at least he still wore boys' clothes. Returning to the bags, I took out a summer dress. It was white eyelet, knee-length and sleeveless, with a square neckline that was lower in back and a full skirt with a sash that tied in back to gather in the waist. It would look adorable with a pair of dressy ankle socks and strappy little sandals. Doh, Ginny. You didn't buy any summer footwear, so Jamie still can't go out in any of his new outfits yet. Next was a pretty pink and yellow floral print sundress. No, wait. The bottom was actually culottes. It was kind of a romper. A light pink skirt, a flouncy aqua miniskirt and 3 coordinating cotton short-sleeved cotton jerseys completed the ensemble. Jamie was going to love his new outfits. Any little girl would. But he wasn't any little girl. There was only one way to know for sure. Jamie, honey, can you come down here for a minute? I called up to him. I waited a couple of minutes. Jamie, now please. I heard him starting down the stairs. When he arrived, he had his doll with him. She still was wearing the outfit I dressed her in this morning. Jamie had managed to put on the matching blouse. Except for buttoning the opposite way, which apparently did not deter him, it was the same as his shirts. I could see the outline of his camisole under the blouse. He also had on the knee socks and his nylon panties, but his skirt was missing. Forgetting about why I had called him down, I questioned him about his incomplete attire. Jamie, What happened to your skirt, honey? It fell off. Unlike regular skirts, kilts had a complicated wraparound fastening system that took some time to master. Do you want me to help you with it? Yes, please. He turned to start back upstairs. Wait a second, honey. I wanted to show you your new clothes. I started to hold up the white eyelet dress, but he wasn't interested. Okay, Ginny, Plan C was not going well either. What was the problem? Of course, the stupid doll again. I had to buy her matching clothes before he would wear what I bought for him. Now I needed to add more outfits to her wardrobe. Enough is enough. I'm his mother and it is up to me to decide how Jamie dresses, not his doll. Jamie, I will help you with your kilt and then you can play for a while, but remember, I told you, sometimes you can wear what your doll wears, but not always. I want to go to the park with you later and you need to choose something from what I bought today. Okay? Okay, he agreed. I followed him upstairs and found the kilt on his bed. I picked it up and wrapped it around him. See, honey, first you bring this side across, like this, with this hand and then fasten it, I showed him. There's a buttonhole here and a button on the inside of the waist here. Now it will stay up. Then you bring the other side across and button it. See the other button and buttonhole. Once you have it on, you buckle the straps that keep it closed. Jamie happily picked up his doll. I left him and went downstairs to decide what I would put on him when we went out. Since we were going to the park, the skirt was the most practical, particularly because he could wear his sneakers with it. I opened a package of the cotton panties and took out a pink pair. The white top would look nice with the skirt. He could wear his usual white socks. No, don't mix his boy's clothes with his girl's clothes. Don't be silly, Ginny. How would he know the difference in socks? If you've seen one pair, you've seen them all. Hold on. There were some socks in the load of laundry that got tinted pink. Genius. You already told him pink underwear was for girls. Pink socks too. It was about 2 o'clock. I'd give him another half hour and then have him change into what I picked out. At 2:30 I took the outfit and went upstairs. Jamie, it's time for you to change so we can go to the park. See this, it's called a skirt. That's because it's a combination of a shorts and a skirt. See. I showed him how the front panel covered over the shorts, so it looked like a skirt from the front, but you could see the shorts from the back. It kind of looks like one of the skirts we bought for your doll, I encouraged him. We can put it on her when you come home. She has a white pullover top like this one too. I held up the top for him to look at. Let's get you undressed. I'll help you with your kilt. Take off the knee socks and your panties too. I have different panties and socks for you to wear. I showed him the pink cotton panties and tinted pink socks. Once he had them on, I had him step into the skirt. It had an elasticized waist, so it was easy to pull on. The top went on the same as the t-shirts with which he was familiar. I gave his hair a brushing to fluff it up and we were ready. Almost ready. I remembered that when I bought him the first set of clothes, I had picked out some accessories to go with them. They were still in the bag. I looked through them and found the gold heart locket on a thin chain and 2 butterfly clips for his hair. I couldn't resist, even though Dr. Mitchell had cautioned me against rewarding him for being a girl. Jamie, honey, I bought you this locket. It will look really pretty on you. So will these hair clips. I opened the clasp, reached around his neck and fastened it, then used the clips to pull the hair back next to each ear. There was no doubt that anyone looking at him would think he was a natural girl. He even had me convinced and I was his mother. Ginny, if you're going to take him out dressed like a girl, you have to start referring to him as a girl, to her as a girl. Do little girls carry pocketbooks? No, not if they're going to the playground. She doesn't have one of those anyway. Add it to the list with sandals. Jamie was very patient while I got him dressed. I expected him to complain, but he accepted the unfamiliar clothes without a fuss. When I finished, I took him into my room to see himself in the full-length door mirror. He turned around twice and smiled, which I took as a sign of his approval. Congratulations, Ginny, Plan C was finally working. I went to the kitchen and put a juice pack and some cookies in a plastic bag, in case he wanted a snack while we were at the park. When he went to get in the car, I showed him how to slide in sideways and then swing his legs in. I didn't matter with the skirt, but there's no harm in learning good habits. At the park, I had him do the reverse when he got out of the car. We went over to the play area. I sent him off, while I sat on one of the benches in the shade of a tree and kept an eye on him. About 10 minutes later, I saw another child come over to him. It was a girl, about his age. I could see her talking to him, and then they went over to the slide. They both climbed up and went down, then up and down a few more times. After the slide, they went over to the climbing structure. It looked like he was having a good time playing with her. I hadn't anticipated Jamie finding a playmate, and I was concerned that he might reveal that he was a boy, but so far, so good it seemed. I had been so focused on Jamie that I hadn't noticed the woman approach. Hi, I'm Helen Nelson. Mary Meredith's my daughter. She pointed to the little girl playing with Jamie. Is that your daughter? I wasn't prepared for her question and hesitated. She mistook my silence for a denial. Oh, I'm sorry, I just thought, since I didn't see any other adults around, that you. I apologize for disturbing you. What? No, excuse me, yes, Jamie is my, daughter, I babbled. I wasn't, you caught me by surprise, which was an understatement. I'm Ginny. You're, Ellen? Helen, she corrected me. It's nice to meet you, Helen. She smiled. Our girls seemed to be getting along nicely. How old is Jamie? Careful, Ginny, I warned myself. If you're going to be taking him out as a girl, you have to get it right. She's 6. Oh, Megan will be 6 at the end of August. What grade is she in? Her, nice recovery, birthday's in July. I held her, good, back a year, so you're improving, wouldn't be the youngest in her class. You're on a roll, just starting kindergarten. Great minds think alike. Mary will be starting kindergarten in the fall too. May I sit down? Please. What school will Jamie be going to? Helen continued. Oak Hill. Mary too. That's so nice. We just moved here. My husband was transferred and she hasn't made any friends yet. Would you believe it, the few neighborhood children who are her age are all boys. Sugar and spice and snips and snails, if you know what I mean. I smiled knowingly, disguising the fact that my puppy dog's tail, to complete the nursery rhyme, was playing quite well with her daughter. Helen was very chatty and I would have enjoyed her company if it wasn't for most of the conversation being about her daughter, a subject which I assumed she thought would be an equally interesting topic for me. Instead, I had to struggle to keep referring to Jamie in the correct gender and make up stories about her girlhood, substituting my own experiences growing up. Finally, I looked at my watch, pretended to have an appointment and called to Jamie, motioning for him to return. I watched as Mary took Jamie's hand and the 2 little girls, or so it appeared, skipped over. I didn't know Jamie knew how to skip. Maybe it was something he learned when he played with his cousins. I never really paid attention to what they did together. Maybe I should have. Jamie and Mary arrived. Up close, she was very pretty, about Jamie's height, with big brown eyes and brunette hair done up in two long pigtails that went halfway down her back. When they arrived, she let go of Jamie's hand and went over to her mother. "Oh, Mommy, can Jamie come to our house?" Mary asked enthusiastically. "I can teach her how to play cat's cradle. I can do up to this many turns," she turned to me and announced proudly, holding up 5 fingers. Helen looked at me. "Can she, Ginny? If you have something to do, I can drop Jamie off later. If they're both in the same school, we must not live too far away from each other." "Oh, I suppose you don't know anything about us, do you?" "No, I guess you're right," she agreed with herself. "It's not a good idea to let your daughter go off with a stranger." "I know, maybe when you're done you could stop by our house. Let me give you our address and telephone number." Before I could say anything, she reached into her purse, took out a large appointment book which had a pen and notepad, wrote the information down and handed it to me. I was waiting for her to ask me for my address and telephone number, which I was reluctant to give her. Since I did not offer to reciprocate, she was polite enough not to ask for it. "Thank you, Helen. It's not that I'm concerned, but we do have other plans for today. I'll give you a call and the girls can get together another time." "Great, Ginny, have a nice day." "You too. Say goodbye to Mary, Jamie." "Bye." "Bye," Mary waved. Once we were safely in the car, I asked Jamie how he liked playing with Mary. "Okay, Mommy. She's nice." "What did you two do?" "I don't know. Just played. On the swings and slide and stuff." "What did you two talk about?" "Nothing." "You and she didn't talk to each other while you were playing?" Jamie. "No, not talk. I don't know. Stuff." I decided not to press him. If there was something he wanted to tell me, he would. At least it didn't seem that he had revealed himself, probably because they were so active. I wondered how he would do if they did something more feminine. He had some experience with his cousins. They knew he wasn't a girl, so they made allowances, I would think. Would Mary recognize the difference? It didn't matter, because I couldn't take the chance. Then it struck me. Oh my God! He and Mary would be in school together. I was pretty sure there was only one kindergarten class at Oak Hill. What would happen on the first day of school when Mary's new girlfriend showed up as a boy? "Now you've done it, Ginny. Dr. Mitchell warned you to be careful, not to take Jamie out where he might be recognized." "What were you thinking?" "Well, he never made friends with anyone in the park before," I defended myself. "Then again, he wasn't a girl. Maybe boys were less social." "Well, add one more thing to talk about with Dr. Mitchell." When we got home, I sent Jamie up to his room to play. I was angry with myself for the predicament I had caused. The more I thought about it, the more upset I became. I could have said no to the doll and none of this would have happened. Or would it? According to Dr. Mitchell, it just would have postponed the inevitable if Jamie was transgendered. He wouldn't be, though, if I hadn't bought him the doll. No, he would be, you just wouldn't know he was. If you didn't know he was and he didn't act like he was, because he didn't have the doll, then he wouldn't be, would he? I was going around in circles. I needed some help. I should call Karen. No, not Karen. She knows we are seeing Dr. Mitchell and she would defer to her, I was sure of it, probably with a lecture on professional responsibility to boot. I looked at the clock on the microwave. It was 4:40. I found Dr. Mitchell's number and I called it, hoping she'd still be in her office. Dr. Mitchell's office. Hi, Kelly? Yes, this is Kelly. Who's this? It's Virginia McCarthy, Kelly. Oh, Ms. McCarthy, I'm sorry I didn't recognize your voice. Between us girls, she gave a little chuckle. Most of Dr. Mitchell's clients disguise their voice to sound female. It's very confusing to sort out who I'm talking to most of the time. What can I do for you? Is Dr. Mitchell available, Kelly? She's still with a patient. Usually she has her 15-minute privacy window, but Samantha is the last appointment for today, so she won't be done until 5. Do you want her to call you when she's finished? Yes, please, Kelly. Is it about your appointment, Mrs. McCarthy? If there's a problem, I can take care of that for you. No, thank you, Kelly. I need to talk to Dr. Mitchell about something that's come up. I'd just feel better if I could get some reassurance. No problem, Mrs. McCarthy. Can Dr. Mitchell reach you at home? Yes, please. Okay, maybe in about 15 minutes. I'll give her the message. Thanks, Kelly. You're welcome, Mrs. McCarthy. Bye. Goodbye. I hung up the phone and started getting dinner ready while I waited for Dr. Mitchell to call back. I was anxious to talk to her and I didn't want to start anything elaborate that might distract me during our conversation. There were a few slices of cheese pizza in the freezer, which I could put in the oven for Jamie. I wasn't hungry. I took them out, put them on a cookie sheet and turned on the oven. While I was waiting for the oven to preheat, I set the table and cut up some lettuce and a few other vegetables I found in the crisper drawer to make a salad. The preparations distracted me enough so that when the telephone rang I was startled. I recovered quickly and grabbed the receiver. Hello. Ginny, hi, it's Jenny Mitchell. Is there a problem? Thank you for returning my call, Dr. Mitchell, Jenny. I was going to be cool, calm and collected. I'm sorry to bother you. It's just, well, something happened today that I... So much for cool, calm and collected. I think I made a mistake, I blurted out. I tried to be careful, but, well, I should have, I didn't mean to. I don't know, this is all so difficult. Maybe I wasn't very good at raising Jamie as a boy, but I'm awful at raising him as a girl. Ginny, Dr. Mitchell finally interrupted my ranting. Calm down. You're not bothering me. That's why I'm here, to help you. You don't have to do this by yourself and you might as well get used to the reality that it's not going to be easy, even with my help. Now tell me what happened that has you so concerned. Start from the beginning and go slowly. Okay? Okay. We went to the park. Jamie was dressed as a girl. Not femmy or anything, just a skirt, plain top, sneakers and socks. He met another little girl. Well, she thought he was a girl too. They played nicely together. Her mother introduced herself to me. Dr. Mitchell, the little girl Jamie made friends with, her name is Mary Meredith. She's going to be in his kindergarten class at school. Jamie's been to the park dozens of times. He plays with the other children, but he's never made a friend before. Do you see the problem? First of all, Ginny, you're making an assumption that is not true. I don't understand, Dr. Mitchell, Jenny. What is it that isn't true? You're assuming that Jamie will start school as a boy. That is one option. The other option is for him to start school as a girl. You mean the school would let a boy come to class dressed as a girl? No, not unless it was Halloween, but, with a clinical diagnosis from me backed up by state and federal laws requiring children with disabilities to be educated in the least restrictive environment, the school authorities can be persuaded to accommodate a transgendered student. Jamie can go to school as a girl? I asked incredulously. That's one option. There are others. We can discuss them on Monday. I was planning on spending most of the session with Jamie, but now we need time to deal with school. You've put him in the daycare center before, haven't you? Yes. Good. Then check him into the center when you arrive. You can leave him while you and I talk about his going to school. Afterwards you can get him and bring him here to meet with me for however much time is left. I don't want to leave open something that has you this anxious, and I can work with Jamie later, rather than sooner. Thank you so much, Jenny. I am relieved. Good. I'll see you on Monday. Yes. Oh, Jenny? Yes? How should I dress Jamie? You mean should he come to the session as a boy or a girl? Yes. I doesn't matter to me, Ginny. To reverse an old saying, clothes don't make the girl. However, since you previously brought him to daycare as a boy, it might be confusing if his twin sister showed up. Oh, right. I hadn't thought about that. Any other questions? No. Good night. Good night. The rest of the week went by quickly. Jamie continued to dress the same as his doll with my help, except when we went out. I decided not to take any more chances. As long as he didn't have the doll with him, Jamie was not interested in what he wore. It had been an emotionally exhausting day. A good dinner and a hot bath before bed would do us both good. Jamie had a burger for lunch, so I wanted to make him something more nutritious. Mac and cheese was always a good, quick meal. I prepared it, made a salad, set the table and called Jamie to dinner. He came down, still dressed in his skirt and blouse, carrying the doll. He left her on the stairs and came into the kitchen. Sit down, honey, dinner's ready. He got in his chair and I served him. For dessert I offered him an ice cream sundae cup, that was usually a favorite sweet, but he didn't want it, a sure sign that he was tired. Sweetie, why don't you go upstairs and get undressed? I'll be up in a few minutes, after I clean up the kitchen, and you can take a bath. He turned and left, picking up his doll and going upstairs. I finished rinsing the dishes and putting them in the dishwasher, gave the table and the counter a quick wipe and went upstairs. I went into Jamie's bathroom and started the water running in the tub. Then I decided that I would let him finish the day like a girl, in a scented bath. I turned off the faucet and went into my bathroom. I found a heart-shaped plastic box of bath beads someone had given me years ago and that had been gathering dust under the sink, returned to Jamie's bathroom, put 3 in the tub, as the package directed, and started the water. Within a few minutes they had dissolved and there was a very pretty floral fragrance. I wondered why I had never thought of using them and realized that it was Jamie who had renewed my attention to being feminine. While the tub was filling, I went to get Jamie. He was in his room. I had told him to get undressed, but he was sitting on the floor talking to his doll. He stopped when he saw me come in. Jamie, I thought I asked you to get undressed. Put the doll down and come here, please. He placed the doll on the bed and walked over to me. I took off his blouse and skirt, sandals and socks, leaving on his panties. He would be naked when he got into the tub and when I got him out and dried him, but I didn't see any reason to get him in the habit of parading through the house without clothes. By now the fragrance from the bath had drifted into his bedroom. Smell that, Jamie. I made a special bath for you. The scent is from bath beads that Mommy uses, but I wanted to share them with you, because you are going to be my special little girl this week, and little girls love to smell pretty. Do you like it? He took a sniff and nodded his head. I wondered if his approval was because he liked the smell or because of the association I made between smelling pretty and being a girl. I walked him into the bathroom and had him take off his panties. Jamie stepped into the tub, sat down and then slid back, so that only his head and shoulders were above the fragrant bubbles floating on the surface. I took his usual bath toys out and handed them to him. I had never really paid much attention to Jamie's aquatic amusement before. Before what? Before he was a girl? He isn't a girl. Seeing him in the tub made that evident, even though he behaves like one. Sometimes. What did Karen and I play with in the tub? Ariel. We had a little mermaid doll that was submersible. She had all sorts of accessories. Her little fish friend, what's his name, and the crab. Oh, for goodness sake, Ginny. Sebastian was the crab, and Guppy. No, you've seen so many of those animated fish movies with Jamie. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I looked down and watched Jamie playing with his toys. Would there be motorboats or mermaids in the tub next week? Okay, honey, time to wash up. I took the washcloth, soaped it up and bent over to scrub his chest, arms and legs. He had his hair washed when it was cut, so he didn't need to shampoo. I handed him the washcloth to finish. Would I wash him all over if he was a girl? I remembered a camp joke about a girl giving herself a sponge bath. First I wash my face and as far down as possible. Then I wash my feet and as far up as possible. Then I wash possible. I laughed to myself. How old was I then? It was overnight camp, so I had to be older than Jamie. Did it matter? Not really. He was old enough to wash possible himself. Jamie finished and handed me the washcloth. I wrung it out and draped it over the faucet. By now the bubbles were gone. Stand up, let's dry you off. I held the big, fluffy bath towel and wrapped Jamie up. I used a second towel to do his legs and feet. When he was dry, I walked him back to his room. I took out a pair of pastel blue cotton panties and handed them to him. He let the bath towel drop and stepped into the panties, adjusting them around his waist. I started back to his bureau and stopped. Oh no, Ginny, you forgot to buy him a nightgown. Well, you can't blame yourself for being distracted. Didn't girls sleep in boys' pajamas? I remembered that in some of those corny old movies Mom watched the woman wore the man's pajama top. That might be sexy, but it wasn't feminine. Girls slept in big t-shirts as nightgowns. That wasn't very feminine either. Then I had an idea. Jamie, you know my tank top that you wore as a dress? He gave me blank look. You know, you wore it when we watched the video the other night. It has shoulder straps and it's lots of different colors. Let me see if I can find it. I looked in his closet, but it wasn't there. Then I remembered. When he first started dressing up, I hid his clothes in my room in case he had a friend over. Wait a second, Jamie. I'll be right back. I went to my room and found the tank top hanging in my closet. I took it down and brought it back to Jamie's room. It was skimpy as a dress, but just the right length to sleep in. Brilliant, Ginny. Tomorrow you can take Jamie shopping for a real nightgown. Another mother-daughter activity, but this will do nicely for tonight. I handed him the tank top. I expected him to question why he couldn't wear his regular pajamas, but he accepted it and put it on without a word. You look very pretty, Jamie, I complimented him. There's one more thing, honey. Girls have to take care of their hair. They brush it out every night before bed. It makes it shine and takes out the tangles. I'll do it for you tonight. I looked around and realized that he only used a comb. Wait another second, Jamie. I have to get a brush from my room. I left and returned with my round styling brush. I gently stroked his hair a few dozen times and then slipped the brush underneath the sides and back to give them a little turn under. There was no doubt that Jamie could pass for a girl. Okay, bedtime. Let's get you snuggled in. I picked up the doll and placed it next to him. Which story would you two like me to read? How about The Little Mermaid, I suggested, with the ulterior motive of finding out Ariel's little fish friend's name. Hearing no objection, I got the book and began the story. It was Flounder. After Jamie had nodded off, I returned to my room and got ready for bed. I needed to call Karen to ask her about Jamie spending the weekend with her family as a girl, but it was still too early. I put on a robe, went downstairs, made myself a cup of tea and found a news program on the television. When the show ended, I made the call. Hello, a man's voice answered. Oh, hi Dave. I hope I didn't call at a bad time. May I speak to Karen, please? Ginny, hi. Karen's not here. She has a group therapy session on Monday nights, but she's usually home by 10. Do you want me to have her call you? If it's something important, you can try her cell phone. Do you have the number? Well, of course you do, I'm sure, he answered his own question. No, it's nothing important, just girl talk. Trying not to seem concerned, I kidded him, oh, and I took your advice. I didn't buy Jamie a pocket protector for starting kindergarten. Which was true, although what I did buy him was much more controversial. Dave laughed. Well, at least someone listens to me. With a house full of females, I have no say in clothing decisions around here. I'm glad we have a boy in the family who can use my manly advice. Little did he know, but he would soon, maybe. Or maybe this wasn't such a good idea after all. I started to have second thoughts and wanted to end the call. Thanks, Dave. Please tell Karen that I'll be up until 11 o'clock if she wants to chat when she gets home. Otherwise, I'll try to catch her tomorrow night. Bye. Night, Ginny. I'll give Karen the message. I hung up the phone and went upstairs to read in bed while I waited. Every so often I would check the clock and about 10:30 the phone rang. Hi Karen, I answered, not expecting anyone else to be calling me at that hour. Hi, Ginny. Dave said you wanted to talk to me. How's it going? Well, we're not making much progress, which is why I called you. Ginny, you know I can't get involved professionally. Do you want me to try to find you someone else? Oh, no, Karen. I didn't mean it like that. Jenny, Dr. Mitchell is great. She's kind and sensitive and caring, and Jamie seems to be comfortable with her, although he's only had one session so far. The difficulty we're having is that he doesn't seem to have a preference. He likes being a girl or at least dressing like one, but he doesn't not like being a boy. I paused. Does that make any sense? Yes, please go on. Well, Dr. Mitchell's suggestion was. Ginny, I know who Jenny is, continue please. Sorry. Well, she suggested I let him spend this week as a girl to see how he feels about it. That's where you come in. I was hoping we could come to visit this weekend. There was a pause while Karen considered the implication. Jamie is spending the week as a girl and you want to bring him here? Yes. I see, she replied neutrally. Karen, I know it's an imposition. I'll understand if you say no. Really, it's not a big deal. I just thought, well, girls play with other girls and it's too dangerous for Jamie to get together with any of the girls around here, even if I knew any, which I don't, because up to now he's only played with other boys, so, well, I thought, maybe, it'd be okay with your girls. It wasn't Jenny's idea, it was mine, she just went along with it, so it's not like doctor's orders or anything. Ginny, if it was up to me, it wouldn't be a problem. I love Jamie and can accept him whichever his gender preference, but I have to consider how it would affect Dave and the children. Debbie and Cindy would probably think it was fun having a girl cousin to play with, but I'm not sure they're ready for a real-life lesson in diversity. I think it would be more difficult for Dave to accept Jamie as a girl. He liked Jim and I think he would feel that he had to be his surrogate in opposing Jamie being feminized, at least that would be his perception of what was going on. Please understand, Ginny, I'm not saying no. I just need time to think it over and discuss it with Dave. What if I call you in a day or two? Can you wait for an answer? Sure, but, well, you don't, it's not necessary. I'm sorry, Karen. It was a bad idea. I'm just not thinking very clearly right now. I have no right to drag you and your family into this. It's not your problem. Please, forget I asked you. Ginny, please, calm down. It's not a problem. It's a question of timing. If Jamie is transgendered, then sooner or later he has to come out to the rest of the family. All you're asking is that it be sooner, rather than later. That may well be the psychologically healthier course, rather than to make him feel guilty and ashamed by hiding it. Give me a little time to sort things out. I promise I'll be discreet. Okay, Karen, I agreed reluctantly. I'll wait to hear from you and thanks. I love you. You're welcome and I love you too. Good night, sis. Good night. I hung up the phone, took a tissue from the box on my nightstand and wiped away the tears that had started to form. You have to hang on, Ginny, for Jamie's sake. Things will work themselves out. You have Jenny and Karen as resources. You're very lucky. There are probably other mothers who have to deal with it on their own. Now get some sleep. I rolled over, turned off the lamp, checked that the clock radio was set for 7:30 and lay back. I tossed and turned, going over the events in my mind and trying to picture how it would be having Jamie as my daughter. Finally, I fell asleep. I woke to the alarm clock. It was another sunny, hot day from what I could see out the window when I raised the shade. I put on a robe and checked on Jamie. He was still asleep, cuddled up with the doll. I wished he had picked out a teddy bear or at least a stuffed animal. It would have been easier to explain if he carried it around with him and they don't wear clothes. Well, I guess some of them do. Winnie the Pooh has a red sweater, if I remember correctly, but they're not identifiably boys or girls. At least regular teddy bears aren't. Not that it mattered at this point. I went downstairs to start breakfast. This was going to be the first full day that Jamie would spend as a girl and I might as well make something special for him. I took out the mixings to make pancakes from scratch and a box of fresh blueberries to add in. The aroma must have carried upstairs, because as I was finishing up the last batch, Jamie came into the kitchen. He must have still been sleepy, because he was holding the doll, which he was not supposed to bring into the kitchen for meals. Looking at him dressed in a nightie with his tousled hair framing his sweet face, he was the picture of an adorable little girl. "Mommy?" he asked as I stood there admiring him. "What?" "Oh, sorry, honey. I was thinking how pretty you looked. Breakfast is ready. I made blueberry pancakes. Sit down." He gave me a questioning look. "It's okay if you keep the doll with you." The time was long gone for trying to separate them. Little girls carried their dollies around. For now Jamie belonged to that gender and gained the privilege. Just put her in your lap and eat neatly, so you don't get anything on her, I cautioned him. I made a stack of 3 pancakes, with a little pat of butter on the top that began to melt with the warmth, cut them into bite-sized pieces, poured on hot maple syrup and served him. He gave me a big smile and I smiled back. Jamie, after breakfast we'll get you dressed in one of your new outfits and then we have to do some shopping. There are still a few more things I need to buy you. More clothes for Jamie? He asked. More clothes for Jamie you, not Jamie the doll, sweetie. She has enough clothes. She doesn't have anything to sleep in, like me, he contradicted me. No, but she's a doll, not a person like you. It doesn't matter what she sleeps in. Jamie's dress will get all wrinkled. You said I had to be careful, Mommy, but when I'm sleeping I can't take care of her. Boy or girl, Jamie was definitely going to be a lawyer when he grew up. Considering that the only mother-daughter activity I had planned for today was shopping for a nightgown, looking for doll clothes would be a good addition to our itinerary. Okay, I conceded. We can shop for her too. Now finish up and then go pick out something to wear. After breakfast I cleaned up the kitchen and then went upstairs to see what Jamie had picked out. To my surprise he was on the bed putting on the doll's party dress. Jamie, I thought I asked you to pick out something for you to wear, not your doll. You're going out and she's staying home, isn't she? At least he hadn't wanted to take her out yesterday, when I offered. He shook his head. No, you're not going out, no, she's not going out or no, she is going out? I questioned him. Jamie's staying home. Jamie, the doll? He nodded his head. That's a yes? Uh-huh. I rolled my eyes and he gave me a sheepish look. Why does she have to get dressed up, if she's not going out? He shrugged. She likes to get dressed up. Then I thought of something that had me concerned. If he and the doll dressed alike when they could, did this mean that he expected to wear his party dress when we went shopping? Thinking back to what I had said at breakfast, I hadn't been specific about which of his new clothes he could choose from. Jamie had no familiarity with girls' clothes, so maybe he was confused about what he could wear. You don't want to wear your party dress to go out, do you? He looked at me blankly. A party dress is only for special occasions. That's why it's called a party dress, because it's for birthdays or holidays, like the pretty green dress Priscilla gave you. You don't wear them every day. You can dress your doll up however you like, but you can't wear whatever you like. Unfortunately, when I went shopping for summer clothes, I hadn't expected Jamie would need a whole week's worth of skirts and dresses. If Jamie was a girl, he'd pretty much dress like a boy in shorts or pants and a top. The whole point of him spending the week as a girl was to let him express his feminine feelings, if he had any. Maybe I was being too concerned about not exposing him to anything that wasn't girly girl, but a boy in his own clothes is a boy and he wasn't supposed to be a boy this week. The only 2 items that Jamie hadn't worn yet were the white eyelet dress, which was too dressy, and the romper. That would be perfect. I looked through the assortment, found it and held it up. Look, Jamie, this is really cute. I'd like you to wear it for me, please. Okay? He looked at it and then looked at the party dress he was putting on his doll, then he looked back at me. I moved the skirt to show how it was really culottes. See, Jamie, the bottom actually has legs. They're called culottes. Girls really like them, because they look like pretty, but they're much easier to wear. We do need to hurry up, sweetie, if we want to get everything done. Which wasn't true. We had the whole day with nothing else to do. I'll tell you what, I bribed him, put this on and we'll go shopping for you and for the doll too. Before he could argue, I asserted my authority as a mother by going over to him and taking off his top, leaving him in his panties. I handed him a clean pair and unbuttoned the front of the romper while he was changing. "Okay, honey, turn around and lift one leg," I directed him, slipping on one side of the culottes. "Okay, now the other leg." "Good." I held out a sleeve. "Arm in." "Other arm, please." I lifted the top over his shoulders. "Turn around again and face me." I buttoned it up. The romper was smooth polyester and cotton with a pink, aqua and bright yellow awning stripes, cap sleeves, and a collarless V-neck. "I think your white sandals would look very nice." I got them and fastened the buckles. "There. All that we need to do is to brush your hair." Oh, silly me. I was so involved in getting you dressed, I forgot to have you use the bathroom or wash up. "Let's go." We went into the bathroom. Now was as good a time as any to teach him about the difference between boys' and girls' bathroom technique. I recalled how long it took me to get him off the potty and to go standing up, first in the bathtub and, once he became sufficiently proficient at aiming, graduating to the smaller target of a toilet. Jamie, girls, well, when you're a girl, this was not going well at all. You remember when you were little and you sat down to make a sissy? Well, that's how girls, that's how you do it when you're, wearing a skirt or dress, because, you have to lift them up and hold them out of the way. Except that he couldn't lift up the romper, because it had legs, so that explanation made no sense. Try again, Ginny. Jamie, girls are different than boys. Doe. We sit when we make sissies, and when you're being a girl, you have to sit too. I unbuttoned his top and let the romper slip down to the floor. "Okay, honey, make a sissy." I turned away to give him some privacy and waited. "You can't shake when you sit." "Can you?" I didn't have the equipment to experiment. When you sit, you use a piece of toilet paper to clean yourself off, so you don't get dribbles in your panties. I got Jamie redressed, had him wash his hands and used a washcloth on his face after he brushed his teeth. We went back into his room. I brushed his hair and put in a barrette on each side with a little butterfly, very summery. I took out a pair of gold heart-shaped magnetic earrings and held them out. "Jamie, would you like to wear earrings like your mother?" I paged my hair back to show him my gold hoops. He looked over to the doll, but her ears were covered by her hair, then at me, thought for a few seconds, and nodded. I put on the earrings. "Honey, they may feel a little funny at first. You're not used to having anything on your ears, but you'll get used to them and pretty soon you won't even know you are wearing them." The last item I took out was the gold heart locket on a thin gold chain, which I hung around his neck. There was a matching bracelet, but I didn't want to overdo it. Little girls love to dress up with jewelry, but this was all new to Jamie. I stood back and looked closely at him. A pretty little girl looked back at me. "Okay, sweetie, you look like a little doll," I said, hoping that the comparison would make him feel good about himself or herself. "Ginny, you need to be very careful. You've already outed him twice. Third time is not a charm. Jamie may look like a girl, but you've got to treat him like one, if this experiment is going to work. Remember, for crying out loud, Ginny, she is your daughter." I gave her hair a final primp. "In the car and off we go, honey. Remember how I showed you to smooth your skirt when you sit?" I buckled her very good, Ginny, in and started for the mall. Maybe Claire would be there. I couldn't remember if she worked on Tuesdays. Did we really need to shop in a department store? I remembered seeing children's clothes advertised in a discount store circular in the Sunday paper. They must have nightgowns and Jamie doesn't need anything fancy. You don't even know if Ginny, if she will be wearing it after this week. Besides, nobody assists you in those kind of stores, so you and Jamie can have fun browsing, and they have a toy section too, so you can shop for doll clothes at the same time. There was one discount store about 10 minutes away and another across town. We were in no hurry and we were less likely to run into someone we knew there. Jamie sat patiently while I drove to the store. I parked and we went in. There were convenient banners that indicated the different sections. I found the one that said girls and headed over there. Unlike the orderly display at the department store, there was a sea of racks with every type of clothing. I held Jamie's hand as we wandered around. I tried to see if there was anything that caught his eye, but he just followed along. Finally, I found the sleepwear area. I looked through the racks and found a very feminine t-shirt style pastel pink polyester Barbie nightgown, with her as a ballerina pirouetting on the front and a little white bow on each sleeve. I held it up for Jamie to see. "Do you like this one?" He studied it for a few seconds. "It's nice. Is there one for Jamie?" "I don't know, honey. I told you, we are shopping for you, not your doll. When we're done, we can look to see if there is anything like it for her." "It doesn't look like my other one." "What other one?" "Oh, you mean the tank top you wore last night? That's not really a nightie, honey. This will be much more comfortable. Feel it. It's so soft and silky." I held it out and Jamie ran his hand over it. "I'm going to buy this one for you," I announced, "and we should find one other nightgown for you." I looked through the racks and saw a cute white cotton peasant-style top with puffy ruffled sleeves and a flounced hem, under which went white capris with a matching ruffle around the cuff. I couldn't resist it. "And these, Jamie, they're adorable." I was hoping that Jamie would show some enthusiasm, but no. She just waited for me while I shopped. Patience, Ginny. She's only been girl for a day and a half. "Okay, honey, these will do. Now let's go to the toy section and see what we can find for your doll." I checked the banners, found the toy section in the middle rear of the store and navigated there, weaving out of the racks and bins of juniors, misses and women's clothing, through lingerie, then shoes, finally arriving at the beginning of an aisle stacked with children's games. We continued down the aisle and up the next aisle, which had an assortment of action toys. The next aisle was all girls' toys. There were lots of box dolls, Barbie and her friends predominated, but there were other sizes and types, and an assortment of box sets of accessories for playing house, but no wardrobe for Jamie's doll. "Jamie, listen, how about if I buy you some toys that you can use with your doll?" I showed her a set of pots and pans with miniature cooking utensils and different kinds of pretend food, but she had no interest in it. Why should she? Little girls grow up with these kinds of toys. Maybe she'll get into it after she plays with her cousins, if she plays with them as a girl, which thought reminded me I was waiting for Karen's decision. In the meantime, there was no point in buying Jamie an unfamiliar toy. The problem was that I had made a commitment of sorts to buy Jamie's doll something to sleep in if he cooperated with my dressing him up. Where else could I find doll-sized clothes? Then it struck me. Maybe there was something that would fit her in the infants section. She wasn't a baby doll, but she was about the same size as a newborn. "Come on, Jamie, there's another place I want to look for doll clothes." Jamie followed me to the infants section. Sure enough, there were tiny t-shirts that were for slightly older babies, but they would fit his doll. I found one in light pink with a rainbow design on the front. I also found a two-piece powder blue sleeper set with a loose top and short pants that looked a little like the pajama outfit. Hopefully Jamie wouldn't notice how loosely the bottoms fit to accommodate a diaper, or realize that pink was for girls and blue was for boys. She seemed satisfied. I took the purchases to the checkout counter, paid for them, and we went out to the car. It was almost 1 o'clock when we pulled out of the parking lot. "I'm hungry, honey." Let's stop. I headed back towards our house. On the way, we passed a nice-looking casual restaurant and I pulled in. It wasn't that crowded on a beautiful summer weekday, and the hostess seated us in a booth. The waitress came over and gave Jamie a big smile, believing her to be what she seemed, a very pretty little girl. "That's a beautiful locket," she said, making polite conversation. "I had one like it when I was a little girl. And I love your hair." She unconsciously primped her own short blonde hair. "What can I get you ladies? Would you like a cold beverage, a glass of milk for your daughter, or iced tea for you?" "Yes, both please, you read my mind." "I don't need a menu. I know what we want to order, a grilled cheese on white for her and a grilled cheese and tomato on whole wheat for me. Ask the cook to go light on the butter, please." "Yes." "Do you want the child special?" It comes with potato chips, milk and a small dish of ice cream for $4.99. Your sandwich comes with chips too, but the beverage is extra and no dessert for grown-ups." She winked at Jamie. "The special, please." "Does she get a choice of ice cream?" "It's vanilla, but I can get you any of the flavors on the board." "What would you like, young lady?" she asked Jamie. "Vanilla, please." That was easy. "Okay, grilled cheese on white and grilled cheese on whole wheat, light on the butter, milk, iced tea, and a dish of vanilla ice cream," she confirmed and left. She returned with the milk and iced tea. While we were waiting for our lunch, I took Jamie to the ladies' room to wash up. I no longer had any concern about taking her in with me. A few minutes after we returned, the waitress brought our sandwiches to the table. After Jamie finished her dessert, I paid the bill and we left. It was a little after 2 o'clock. There was nothing left for us to do, so I drove home. When we got in the house, I told Jamie to go play. I took Jamie's nightgown and pajamas and the baby clothes for the doll into the kitchen and cut off the tags. Normally I would go out in the backyard to sit in the sun and take Jamie with me to play, but I didn't want the neighbors to see her. I went upstairs and got my book. I made a mental note to stop off at the library and get some more reading material, because I was going to be spending a lot of time in the house. Time dragged on. I tried to concentrate on my reading, but I had too much on my mind. Finally it was 4:30 and I could start dinner. After dinner I sent Jamie upstairs and followed a little while later to get her ready for bed. It was early, but I wanted to see how she looked in her nightgown. I got her undressed, washed her up and slipped the nightgown over her head. "Do you like it, Jamie?" She nodded. "What about Jamie's pajamas?" she asked. "It's not pajamas, honey. Pajamas have pants. It's a nightgown. And yes, here's a nightgown for the doll. Do you want me to put it on her?" He shook his head. "Okay, you do it. Then come downstairs and we can watch a video until it's your bedtime." I left and went to the den. I went through the Disney videos and picked out Sleeping Beauty. It seemed appropriate. About 10 minutes later, Jamie came down with his doll dressed in the t-shirt. The nightgown rode up as Jamie settled herself on the couch and I reminded her to pull it down to cover her legs. She held the doll in her lap and snuggled up to me. By the time Happily Ever After came around, Jamie's eyes were closing. I took her upstairs, put her into bed, pulled up the covers, kissed her goodnight and left. I waited outside her room for a few minutes until I was sure she was asleep, and then went into my room to get ready for bed. I hoped that the phone would ring, but it had only been one day and, knowing Karen, she would not make a quick decision. The bedroom was dark when I woke up. At first I thought it was still early, but I glanced at the clock on my nightstand and it was almost 8. I must have forgotten to set the alarm. I went to the window and opened the shade. It was a dreary day and looked like it was going to rain. Not that I had any outdoor activities planned. I looked in on Jamie and she was still sleeping. I went downstairs and looked through the local paper while I had my morning cup of tea. I checked the weekly event calendar to see if there were any mother-daughter activities. There was a promotion for a 2 o'clock performance of Jack and the Beanstalk at the Children's Puppet Theater. Jamie would enjoy that. The main branch of the library offered a weekly story on Wednesdays at 11 o'clock. Jamie would like that too. He couldn't read yet, well, he sight read a few words, but he could get some picture books and I could find a novel or two. That would work perfectly. Good, Ginny, you have the day planned. I went up to Jamie's room and stood by his bed. Good morning, sleepy head. Rise and shine. We have a fun day today. We're going to the library to hear a story and then to a puppet show. Let's get you washed up and dressed before you have breakfast. That way we can get going after you eat. I pulled back the covers, revealing Jamie in her nightgown. She sat up and swung her legs over the edge of the bed. I put out my hand, she took it and I took her into the bathroom. Go to the bathroom first, and then I'll help you wash up. Jamie stood in front of the toilet, but hesitated. I realized that she was used to pulling down her pants instead of lifting up her dress for access. Turn around, reach up under your nightgown and pull down your panties. Then pull your nightgown up to your waist and sit down, I explained. She followed my directions. I remembered that when she was being potty trained the seat came with a guard to insert at the front for boys to avoid accidents. Make sure you point down, I cautioned him. She finished and started to get up. Wait, sweetie. I handed her a folded-up piece of toilet paper. Make sure you're dry and then drop it in the bowl. She patted himself, disposed of the toilet paper and stood up. Good, now pull up your panties and straighten out your nightgown. I supervised her washing up and brushing her teeth. Back in her room I gave her a clean pair of panties. She would be sitting a lot today, so I dressed her in the skirt and top she wore when we went to the park to be on the safe side of girls' fashion. I brushed her hair, put in the butterfly barrettes and accessorized with the earrings and necklace. Looking at her I thought to myself that, although she wasn't born a girl, she should have been. Ginny, I reprimanded myself, that's silly. He may look girlish now, but remember what Jenny said about what she had to go through to be feminine, hormones, implants and surgery. You couldn't wish that on Jamie. I gave Jamie a bowl of cereal with fruit, toast and a glass of juice, so that it would be a quick cleanup and then we could leave for the library, but I was interrupted by the telephone. I assumed it was a sales call, but then I looked at the caller ID and saw that it was Karen's office number. It was unusual for her to call me during the day, especially from her office. Karen, hi. Hi, Ginny. I knew you were anxious about this weekend. Ginny, I need to explain. She hesitated. I had never known Karen to be at a loss for words before, but the short answer, sis, is no. I'm sorry. I love Jamie and I would do anything for him, but the timing is wrong. Ginny, I want you to understand, I gave this a lot of thought. I researched it and, just to get another perspective, I talked it over with a gay couple I know, in the abstract of course. It all lead to the same conclusion, that Jamie's not ready to come out. Karen, I don't understand, I said with my hand in front of my mouth, so Jamie wouldn't overhear. Jamie's already out. She wears girls' clothes, she had her hair done in a beauty salon and everyone who sees her thinks she's a girl. She really looks pretty all dressed up, I bragged. I'm sure Debbie and Cindy will accept her as a girl. So will Dave, once he sees her. Yes, Ginny, they will, and that's my concern. Jim and Chuck, my gay friends, said it best, that coming out redefines you. I want my family to love Jamie for himself or herself, but we don't know which one yet. Do you understand, Ginny? If Dave and the children do accept Jamie as a girl, then that is how they will see him, even if that is not how he sees himself. I hope you're not upset with me, Ginny. No, Karen, of course not, but why did Jenny, Dr. Mitch, approve of it when I made the suggestion? Did she? Did she what? Did she approve of it? I thought about what she said. Well, no, not exactly, I guess. She said I should talk to you about it and then speak with her on Thursday. Ginny, the more I hear about Dr. Mitchell, the more impressed I am with her. A good therapist doesn't want her patients to become dependent. You're Jamie's parent. You have to decide what is best for him. Counseling you afterwards allows her to discuss your decision without influencing it. Oh, that makes sense. If she didn't feel Jamie was ready, then she would have advised me not to do it, but now she doesn't have to, because I decided not to do it on my own. Well, it's more of a compliment to you that she trusts your judgment, rather than an effort by her to avoid counseling you, but yes, sis, that's the general idea. I'm sorry, but I've got to go. I just wanted to get back to you as quickly as possible. Thanks so much, Karen. You're welcome, Ginny. Please call me. I will, sis. Love you, bye. Love you too, bye. As I went to hang up the phone, I saw Jamie standing by the door, waiting patiently like a little angel. I'm really sorry, sweetie. I had to talk with Aunt Karen, I explained. I looked at my watch. It was only a little after 10. We have plenty of time. We drove to the library. I parked and we went in. I asked the woman at the front desk where to go. She directed me to the children's section, which was upstairs. I was familiar with the library. I came here often with Jamie after Jim died, just to get us out of the house. The children's area was a happy place, with low shelves loaded with books and small futons that the kids could climb on to read or look at pictures. I noticed about a dozen boys and girls, from toddlers to a little older than Jamie by their looks, who I assumed were waiting for story time to begin. I let go of Jamie's hand. She loved books and I let her wander around, picking up whatever caught her attention. Browsing myself, while we waited, I was impressed with the selection. Bears, bees, birds, bunnies, butterflies, cats and kittens, dogs and puppies, lions, snakes, every animal imaginable and imaginary had their own story. There were lots of stories about children too. I wondered if there was one about a boy who wanted to be a girl. Probably not, it would be too controversial. That got me to thinking about what the people here would say if they knew about Jamie. What if I told them? Would they tease her? Children can be cruel. Would they ignore her? Adults can be insensitive. Would they accept her? Accept her as what? Not a girl and not a boy. Karen was right, I realized. Coming out changes the way people define you. Better to be sure than sorry. At about 11:15, an older woman came into the area. She clapped her hands to get the children's attention. Boys and girls, I'm Mrs. Altman. Welcome to the library. Story time will begin in a few minutes. Please find yourself a place to sit. Today I'm going to read you the story of Peter Rabbit. She held up a large picture book she was carrying. He is a very naughty bunny who has a very exciting adventure. Mothers, if your child needs to use the restroom, now would be a good time. She had obviously done this before. A few of the mothers took Mrs. Altman's advice and headed off with their child in tow. Jamie had managed to claim a futon. A few unruly boys tried to bully their way into a seat that was already occupied, but Mrs. Altman refereed. She had definitely done this before. Mothers with the little children sat cross-legged on the floor with them in their laps. A little girl, perhaps a year or two younger than Jamie, came over to him and, to my astonishment, she slid over to make room. The two sweet little girls sitting together looked like sisters, I thought nostalgically. At 11 o'clock Mrs. Altman moved to the front of the circle of children and clapped her hands again. All right, boys and girls, I'm going to start story time. You need to be very quiet. She held her finger up to her lips and made a shushing sound. Quiet like a mouse, she emphasized. An itsy, bitsy, teensy, weensy mouse, she added for dramatic effect. She waited while the children quieted down. Looking to the back of the circle, where I was standing with some of the other mothers, she offered, "Ladies, if your child is old enough to be on their own, then you may use the library facilities. Story time will be over at 11:30. Please be sure to return by then, and please, if you do leave, make sure your child understands that they are not to leave the circle until you are back. Thank you." I looked over to Jamie and motioned that I was going to go. She smiled, which I took to mean she was comfortable without me around. I waved so that she would know that I was leaving. She waved back. I heard Mrs. Altman's pleasant voice begin the familiar story. Once upon a time there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. She held up the big storybook to show an illustration of Mother Rabbit with her little bunnies. I turned and quietly left. Downstairs I looked through the current bestsellers and found 2 books by authors I enjoyed. I took them to the front desk. I opened my pocketbook to get my library card. As I was rummaging around, I came across the note that I got from the mother of the little girl at the playground, Mary. I tucked it away, got out my wallet and gave the librarian my card. She checked out the books and handed it back to me. "1 week on those novels, Ms. McCarthy," she reminded me, reading my name off of the computer screen. "You can renew for 1 additional week by telephone. The slip in the inside pocket has the code." Thank you, Edna. I read the name off her tag. I know. Since I still had some time before I had to go back, I asked her, "I'm sure most people renew, so why not 2 weeks to start with? If we gave people 2 weeks, they'd take 2 weeks and then they'd want a 3rd week." "It's human nature to procrastinate," she observed cynically. Human nature is to judge a book by its cover too, I thought to myself. I took the books and went back upstairs. Mrs. Altman was finishing the story. I pretty well knew it by heart. It was one of my favorites growing up. Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea, and she gave a dose of it to Peter. She held up the big storybook to show an illustration of Mother Rabbit dressed in an apron cooking up dinner for her bunnies. All except Peter, who was too tired from his adventures. The end. The children all clapped enthusiastically. They started to leave and Mrs. Altman watched carefully to make sure that each child was reclaimed. I got Jamie and took her over to Mrs. Altman. "Say thank you to Mrs. Altman." "Thank you, Mrs. Altman," Jamie complied. "You're most welcome, sweetheart. Please come again. Jamie, would you like to find some books to take home?" She nodded. We looked through the books and found 4 picture books that looked interesting. I checked them out and we drove home. It was noon and the puppet show didn't start until 2, so there was time for me to make lunch. I got out a loaf of white bread, grape jelly and peanut butter to make the always favorite standby, a PB&J sandwich. I poured a glass of milk and called Jamie down to eat. Of course she came with her doll. While Jamie was eating I thought about the note in my pocketbook. I took it out. It had the woman's name, address, and telephone number. I wondered. I wanted Jamie to socialize as a girl, but she couldn't go to her cousin's house because they knew she was a boy. The mother at the playground, Helen, had offered to have Jamie and her daughter play together. What if I took her up on it? She thought Jamie was a girl. Jenny was not concerned about the encounter in the park. Mary seeing Jamie again would make it more difficult for him to go to school as a boy. Even so, she might not go to school as a boy, and then it would be even better to have a girlfriend in her class, I rationalized. If worse came to worse, I could enroll her in a different elementary school. If Jenny could arrange for Jamie to go to school as a girl, she must be able to get her transferred as a boy. It would be inconvenient having to drive him across town, but I have nothing else to do. Or, I could send her to private school. That's an option. We can afford it. Why didn't I think of it before? I guess because Karen and I went to public school, but that would be the perfect solution. It wouldn't matter what happened when they got together, because he won't be in school with her. Brilliant, Ginny. Maybe, I thought, we should go slowly. Let the girls get to know each other. I doubted that they'd be home, although it was a dreary day, so maybe they were. I could invite her to go to the puppet show with us. Then maybe out for ice cream. If it worked out, I could arrange a play date. Was Jamie ready for that? She looked like a girl, but she knew nothing about being one, other than dressing her doll. Would Mary catch on? Was it too soon for Jamie to socialize as a girl? Was it too risky? What would happen to her if she was rejected or worse, ridiculed by a real girl? Maybe I should call Jenny and ask her advice, but, like Karen had said, I was Jamie's mother and it was up to me. Okay then, Ginny, try the puppet show and see what happens. I picked up the phone and dialed the number on the note.